Welcome to a sports betting podcast from pregame.com for the week of February 19th, 2010. I'm your host, RJ Bell. I'm joined by Marco D'Angelo, 30 years in the business, Vegas runner, genuine professional bettor here in Las Vegas, star of the CNBC special on gambling. This is segment 104, big game preview. Now what we're doing a little differently this week is we're going in reverse chronological order. So the games furthest out are first and the games nearest to our taping are last. That way, if you're listening a little later in the weekend, you can get the stuff that hasn't gone off yet early, and then once you get to the point in the podcast where the games have passed, you may not want to listen, though you can, maybe hear Marco's wisdom and see if he was right or not. So, okay, so what we have here on Sunday is we've got the Cavs at the Magic. And what makes this especially interesting is the big trade that happened where the Cavs got...
maybe the missing piece, Antoine Jameson.
All right, so let's talk about that real quick before we break down. What 30 seconds or less, VR, what do you think of that trade for the Cavs?
I think it's huge. We covered it in This Week in Vegas, and I love that they're trying to at least keep LeBron there by winning a championship. If they don't win a championship, he's free to go. If they win a championship, they could keep him there because he's going to want to defend it. And most players of his level leave because they want that ring. Mm-hmm. So I give them credit for going out and grabbing such a big acquisition.
So you touch on a good point, which is there's two elements to this trade. One is the on-the-court element, but number two is the psychology of it. Is, in your work environment, in your relationships, things happen. When a couple gets engaged, in fact, we'll give a little shout-out to one of our core pros, Dan Beebe, just got engaged this weekend. Usually, everything's going to feel new. Everything's going to feel excited. In fact, I think there was a Sopranos scene when Christopher finally got engaged to Adriana, and then they had sex, and he goes, "We should have got engaged years ago." And I think with a team, if there's a sense that this team has been invigorated, and even though the Cavs were playing great, is they have even a better chance, that's good. But there's another side. When a team like the Bullets, the Wizards, when a team like the Wizards are dumping all of their players, think about the psychology of who's left. It even goes beyond just the matchups and beyond the reality of what's on the floor. Is how can you be excited if you're a Washington player? So even though the line's going to be adjusted, I think maybe fading these teams that have gutted themselves is sometimes a good bet.
To take that one step further, what you said about being a Washington player, how they feel. How about home court advantage for Washington and those type of teams? Because as a fan, how do you feel? How do you get excited about, I got season tickets.
Gave up on the season.
As a guy coming from Pittsburgh and seeing this with the Pirates all the time, every time they do it, every season, it's like...
That's a good point, is the psychology of the team and even less home court. That's a great point. Real quick, 20 seconds, what do you think of the trade?
I think it's a great move. I agree with VR. It should be the missing piece, and anything less than the NBA Finals is going to be huge disappointment for
I kind of liked that they, Stoudemire was the bigger name, but from what I understand, and I'm no expert at breaking down trades because there's so many factors with the salary cap and all that, is they gave up less than they would have had to. So I'm not sure they didn't get an equal player or a very close player. So and don't forget now, there's a good point made on Talk Radio, which you can get good information on, is the coach of D'Antonio, is that how you say it? The guy from the Knicks, he didn't want Stoudemire. When you got guys that used to play with a guy or coach him not wanting him, probably a sign of something.
Yeah, and he fits in perfectly because he's a great player, but he's not going to try to be the big guy there, and you can't overshadow LeBron, where an Amari might come in and think, I want to be number one.
Okay,
Jameson's going to know his role.
Fit his role,
player.
All right, so now let's look at this exact matchup on Sunday. Now, one thing we do when we're looking at these games early is we replicate what a true handicapper does, which is make a line on the game. What's particularly interesting, because there's not even a line out yet, but what's particularly interesting is we've got two different types of handicappers here. Vegas runner, when you make the line, you're making the true line. This is what you think is going to split the result of the game. Now, Marco likes to do a lot more with what the odds makers are trying to induce you to do, so he puts out a fair line, which is what he thinks is going to split the action. And then if the line comes out significantly different, he knows the sports books are they want disproportionate action. So what is the true line on this game by your handicap?
I made Orlando a 1.5 point home favorite, and I set the total at 194.5.
All right, what did you do?
I made Orlando a 3-point favorite in this game.
Okay, so that your 3-point splits the action. Wow, that surprises me. Okay, now we got a free pick on this one, right?
I have a free pick on this game, and last week we actually had this same matchup, only they were in Cleveland.
Yeah, that was my free
VR
pick.
had a free pick on Cleveland, and everything we talked about last week is all the reasons why I have Orlando this week. Cleveland, that was the first time that they played Orlando at home last week since Orlando knocked them out of the playoffs and cost them going to the NBA Finals. Now they got all their revenge taken care of.
Yeah, they beat them at Orlando.
They beat them earlier in the year, and they beat them at home. Now this is Orlando's time to come to play, make the statement, and say, hey, we're still here. We're not going away. And I think you're going to get some added value where every year when you make a trade like Cleveland just did, there's going to be, like a new relationship. There's going to be growing pains. You're going to have to learn to coexist with the new player. You're going to have different habits, different tendencies, and I think it's a great spot for Orlando to get the win. It's on national TV, ABC. I've got them winning this game by 9 or more.
Okay, so I agree, and that was going to be my point, is long term, this trade makes the Cavs better. In the short term, however much they're better, it's significantly less than it will be in the long term when they get integrated as a team. I mean, that's why the All-Star games are so disjointed. These players aren't used to playing with each other. And you have a situation where one of the keys of the Cavs at this point now is not used to the rest of the team.
And you're paying for perception. Because right now, you don't know actual strength. I mean, even though the odds makers say they have a power rating for each particular player, and like we said before in the other video this week in Vegas, he might be worth a 8.5 on his old team. But in the new team, you might have to adjust that number with how he fits into that offense, how he fits with that team. So
when you say 8.5, what does that mean?
Well, I'm saying the odds makers say they have a rating for every player, from left tackle to the center to this and that. So when someone's out, they know how to adjust them for it.
Okay.
I'm just throwing any number out there.
But the key is who the player who would have been there. It's the if you have Steve Young and Joe Montana's a great player, but having Steve Young as a backup isn't much of a drop-off. It's always relative to who's playing versus who would have played.
Yeah, and you don't know how right now it's all in perception, I think, any adjustment.
I mean, it's really as simple as the ESPN-type batters who watch SportsCenter are saying, wow, he's great, Cavs were good before, Cavs are even better. That's why I'm surprised, to be honest, that you came out with the idea that this line's going to be 3.
Well, actually, we're taping on Thursday. If you looked at tonight's line with Cleveland and Denver, they opened that game, Cleveland, only 6 tonight against Denver, and they just played 5 weeks ago in Denver. Now, Carmelo wasn't in the lineup, but the Cavs were a 5-point favorite on the road in Denver, and they're only a 6-point favorite at home tonight. So even if you take Carmelo, what are you going to give Carmelo? 3 points?
All right. Interesting. So if that's the case, then aren't we saying potentially that this perception, the lines makers are not accounting for it?
They put tonight's line out low. I did the podcast with Dan Beebe and Mike Hook, and that's exactly what I talked about. I said I was shocked that the line came out that low on Cleveland tonight.
I thought, to be honest with you, it's going to come out lower. Orlando a lower favorite, only because Cleveland beat them 2 times, and they beat them handedly.
Yeah, I especially. I mean, if it's 3, I'm not sure I like the Magic. If it's 1 or pick 'em, I certainly do. And but that's always the catch-22 for you. If it came out of pick 'em, who knows what you would like, because you think the odds makers would be trying to do something. But we have an official free pick on the Magic. What we're going to do is grade these games on what the consensus is when they go off. And that's good stuff. Okay, now next up is we're going to be breaking down another basketball game. And what we have a special offer here is if you go to pregame.tv, you can get all of our videos. You can go to this video and predict the score in the comments section of YouTube. If you get the score exactly right, you get $100 free to spend any way you want at pregame.com. And remember, if you want to download and listen, you can just go to iTunes and search for pregame.com.